Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Gary Summers, and welcome to Mind, Body, and Soul, a show about your mental, physical, and spiritual wellness. But our topic today is divine storytelling time, an intuitive reading of a different kind. Back in 1991, my next guest knew that crying on Sunday nights before another work week just couldn't go on. Her dream job, or what she thought would be her dream job, just wasn't cutting it anymore, and she felt stuck. That's when she started using her intuition consciously to take her life in a different direction, living, studying, and teaching on 3 continents and 5 provinces. After decades of living intuitively, she now helps others tune into their inner guidance by teaching her intuition into action treasure map, 5 steps to a happy, healthy life. And through services like her special brand of intuitive readings, divine storytelling time, as well as guided visioning, meditation, soul energy portrait experiences, and her energy-infused art that you've likely seen around town. My next guest is an intuitive visionary artist, educator, and naturopathic practitioner who guides you to explore and express your true self as you connect to your inner guidance. Grounded in her love of beauty and the beauty of love, she delivers insight and inspiration through her intuition into action treasure map, 5 steps to a happy, healthier life. She'll delight you through energy-infused art, intuitive exercises, guided meditations, presentations, interactive workshops, and writings. Welcome, Dominique Hurley.
Wow. Thank you very much for having me here today.
And just so people understand, as we're going through this interview, I'll be posting some of your paintings that are available on your website, Dominique, and if people are interested and if something there that inspires someone, then they can certainly get in contact with you.
Dominique, can you just give us a brief idea as to what our listeners can expect to hear from you today?
Yes, well, you got into a bit of what is intuition. I'm going to talk about the way I see it. So what's intuition and why it matters? That's going to be the first part. And how intuitive hearing aids, that's what I call the tools that can help us develop and exercise our intuition so that we can connect to that inner GPS. So I'm going to talk about how intuitive hearing aids can help. And then after that, we're going to have fun. I brought a guest here to the studio myself. My friend Leslie is here. We're going to do an intuitive reading, what I call a divine storytelling time. But all the listeners can participate as well, because I'm not just going to be connecting to her, but everyone who's ever listening. So you're going to get a chance to play with this and actually try it out.
Oh, wow, great.
Dominic, talk to us about intuition and what you feel is the definition of intuition.
Well, intuition is, we were all born intuitive. It's just something we have. But like Albert Einstein said, I love his quote, the intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We've created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. So it's basically, we have a very left-brain society, the masculine do, action-oriented, rational, and analytical thinking. But the intuition is your right, creative, receptive brain. And it's that connection between that right brain and your heart. It's also, don't let vocabulary get in the way, but it's also your connection to source, your connection to your team of divine helpers, your connection to your own inner guidance, your own inner GPS. No matter what you call it, it's that inner knowing, and it comes through many different channels. So your gut instinct, that's your sensory, but there's 6 ways that it comes through your inner and outer vision, your hearing, your knowing, your sense of smell and taste, as well as claircognizant, that's the knowing. I forgot one, but there's 6 of them. And actually there's a 75-minute tutorial under the free resources on my website that you can go and do a whole sort of get deeper into it. But what it is, intuition is that side of you that should be the leader to help you get clear decisions, that sense of connection, that sense of being able to make decisions that you know are right for you because it's directed by your heart, by your inner guidance. And when you have that, you can develop a much more successful life, no matter what success means to you, not somebody else's version of it. It's a way of feeling more connected to yourself, to your life, happier and healthier, because basically if you're aligned with what your been born to do, if you think that way, then you're going to be happier and healthier. And intuition is sometimes that little tap on the shoulder that tells you, hey, you're off track. You're just running around on a hamster wheel. Get off, and this is what you should do. It's that invitation to grow. It will always take you a little bit out of your comfort zone and stretch those comfort zones. But that's your invitation to grow. And if you don't listen to those little taps on your shoulders, you may be hit by a 2x4 before you make those changes in your life, and you don't want to get to that point. So intuition gets you all the way there, and that's why it matters, is because if you don't, things break down in your life. If you don't listen to your intuition, your relationships, your life, your work life, your everything, your health, everything starts to break down until you realize something's got to change. Like my crying on Sunday nights, it was like, it was my dream job for 4 years, but after that, it's like it wasn't anymore, and I got comfortable there, and it was a good salary, and I didn't want to change, or it was too scary. It was kind of those golden handcuffs. And but I was certainly not willing to cry every Sunday night anymore.
So it's really and I look at it, and I always say to people, it's about getting in touch with your feelings, and if you don't feel right about something, then you're not in balance. So you really need to act and do something about that. And too many people ignore their intuition, ignore their feelings, and they just lead a blah life.
Yeah. And your ego's job is to keep you in that comfort zone, to keep things as they are. And so if you're leading your life based on that, or you don't want to listen to your intuition because it's asking you to, go a little too, take, those little baby steps until sometimes it'll ask you to take a leap of faith, and you don't want to do that, then you try to drown those voices, and that's where the, over shopping, overeating, drugs, all sorts of different things, people they want to numb that connection. It's too intimidating for them, or just ask them to change, and change is a hard thing, but you can't grow through life without change.
I read somewhere that there is nothing intuitively wrong with change. Like, people tend to avoid it because it's something that puts them outside their comfort zone, and what if I fail? What if people are going to think of me? So people tend to look outward instead of looking inward.
Yeah, well, all our answers are always within.
Totally.
The only thing is that because of all the noise and the distractions, and goodness knows there's so much of it out there, they don't hear it, or they don't see it or sense it. As I said, there's different channels that intuition comes through. And what happens is, if you're in any state of anxiety or depression, it's like static on the communication line, like static on the phone line, you can't hear. And so if you can't hear the message, then you're not going to act on it. And that's where the intuitive hearing aids can help. That's just my name for things like guided visioning meditations, which I have a bunch of free ones on my YouTube channel and website, as well as the divine storytelling time session that I'm going to do here today. It's a way to, it gives you this time, the structure, and the exercise like a muscle. You can't develop your muscles if you don't go to the gym, and going once isn't going to help. So by doing these kinds of exercises, it helps strengthen that muscle and develop it and trust your own intuition.
Dominique, let's get into this. What do you do during a divine storytelling time?
Well, this is one of the intuitive services I offer people, and usually it's like a 1 hour recording that comes with a visual gift that I create using my photographs, and all of it provides clues for you to decipher. So my intuitive readings, I'm not telling you about your future literally. I'm basically channeling a story, and it's like tapping into the internet, but I call it the Ethernet, where I connect to your team of divine helpers, to your intuition, to your higher self. And from there comes through me, it looks like a Disney Pixar story in my mind's eye. And it's the same stories from which I base some of my paintings. But in this case, I'm just recording the story. And when the client gets the story and they go into it and they have questions that they're asking, and every time they listen to it, different parts of the story will catch their attention. And they use it as a self-discovery tool, but also to help them in their decision-making process. And I've had clients who listen to it every day or two, and their whole life is, they're helping make those changes, make those transformational changes in their life based on their interpretation of the story. Because one symbol might mean one thing to you,
Absolutely.
it's something
Absolutely.
else to someone else. So my job is not to tell you what to do. So if you're looking for specific answers that I'm going to give you. No, this is an empowering tool for you to develop your intuition. I'm just helping you access the intuitive data. So what I'm going to do here today with Leslie, but also with all the listeners, is, or I'm going to guide you through like a 1 minute instead of a 1 hour, because we don't have that much time. But
it'll give people an idea as to what it's all
absolutely. You'll get a taste of if
Right.
this is the kind of game you like to play. And it is kind of a game, because intuition also gets you into touch with that divine inner child. You know, it gets you that sense of curiosity and wonder. If you're the kind of person who likes to play detective or likes to see a story, like a movie or a radio play, and it's like, what's the moral of this story? What does it mean for me? It's about you putting meaning into things. And so that's what it's about. So the first step is for you to ask a question. So listeners, if you want to write down your question, and it's good that if it's a specific question, so don't ask about two things like problems at work and problems with your dog, just like choose one, but also focus on what it is you want, not what you don't want. So instead of saying, why am I having so many problems with Bob, my coworker, say, how can I improve my
Absolutely.
relationship with my coworker,
Absolutely.
Bob, in the next 2 weeks? Like, be specific and make it an open question, not a yes/no question, you know, something that you can actually get an interpretation. And good not to use the word should in your question, simply because that gives away your power.
Absolutely.
So what is, and you can be general, like what's in my highest good for me to know and do today, or you can be specific about your relationship with your coworker Bob that you're having so much troubles with today.
Perfect. So you talked about developing a question. So are we ready to start this?
We're ready. So Leslie, you've got your question?
I do.
And I don't know, I mean, Leslie's my friend. I brought someone who's done this before so that she can, she knows how to work it. But I have no idea what her question is. And so we're going to go
So
from
just
there.
before we start, for our listeners, as Dominique said, think of a question that you feel could make your life better. So something general or something very specific, like you said. How do I improve my relationship with my children?
Mm-hmm.
How can I have a better marriage?
Yeah,
So those
that
are the
kind
type
of
of
thing.
things. So join us with this, everybody, and just think of something, a question, a burning question, that's something you feel could really help you live a better life.
Yes, and when I call in my team of divine helpers and connect to divine consciousness, I'm doing it through space and time. So no matter if you're listening to a replay of this show, you're listening to this in the future, or you're listening to it again, know that I've connected to your team of divine helpers and for what's in your highest good. So I'm going to start with a little opening prayer, and then I'm going to get straight into the vision, and I'll just basically be saying what I'm seeing with my eyes closed.
We ready to start? Here we go.
Dear source and guiding spirits of the highest vibrations, angels of light and love, guide us on our path to our highest good. For all those who listen in the past, present, and future to this, well, not the past, but the present and the future, give us a story that answers everyone's questions that they have in their hearts today. I'm seeing 3 women standing in front of me. They're in period costumes, I'd say maybe 100 years ago. One's in like a nurse costume, one's in I would say it kind of looks like a war movie, but the person who's carrying the communication box, or he's switching or she's switching to a mailman type of look, but in that military style. And the third person has like a khaki safari, sort of like a Jane Goodall person. And they all have their hands one on top of each other, like they're about to do like a football sort of 1, 2, 3 hands up in the air. And as they did that, they went and did a backflip. And as they did the backflip, they sort of disappeared from the vision. And I'm looking down on the ground where there's a little frog, and the hand, as if it was my hand, reaches up and picks up this little frog. And as I pick it up and look at it, it sort of turns into water, and it's just water running down into the ground. And in the sand, you can see as the water falls, it's sort of digging little rivulets in the sand and going downhill. And looking back into the hand now, there's like a group of precious stones. And these precious stones, although they sometimes look like Smarties or Skittles and precious, they're shape-shifting as well. And the hand is closing on these. And as the hand opens again, it's a piece of burning charcoal, like an ember from a fire. Like it's dark and it's not burning the hand. But as the black part falls off, there's this deep orange glowing ball. I'm going to stop there. So imagine that going on for an hour, and your job now is to oh my goodness, what does this mean? to me? How you really have to play here and say, well, this could mean this, but look at your question. So step one is asking. Step 2 is accessing, which I did for you. That's why it's an intuitive hearing aid. Step 3 is for you to analyze. So you bring back the question and you bring all that story and you try to match them. But you're also being intuitive. You're not closing off your right brain right now. It's the left and right brain working in harmony to try to figure out what this story means to me.
What it means to you. So the concept of the frog and the backflip, the idea is your right brain to form some kind of a meaning that's personal to you.
Yeah, your left brain, your analytical brain, but also your right brain, because as you were listening to the story, or as you listen to it again, you may have taken notes or looked at it, you might get a memory. You might get a sense of knowing. You might get a feeling of all of a sudden like a hot flash, or you're like this cool breeze going through you. Your intuition comes through many different ways. It's not just the analytical part. It's what messages are you receiving as you're listening to the story, plus what does it mean to you? So if you're sort of trying to, play detective, and that's your left brain, you're saying, okay, according to my question, what does this mean? And after the break, Leslie's going to sort of try that with me and sort of see, she's going to talk about her question and what the story might mean to her.
So I guess, Dominique, what do we do now with this dreamlike story?
Well, the goal is to find meaning. So you take the question that you came in with, you take the story and you try to put it together to find meaning. But the ultimate goal is to come out with inspired action, because you can get all the guidance you want in the world, but if you don't act on it, It's completely useless.
Absolutely.
And that's like even me getting the message to come out of the visionary closet and start offering these services, not just use my visionary skills in my artwork. That was scary. I shook for 3 days just thinking I can't do this. It's like, this is the kind of thing I learned to shut up about when I was a young kid. You don't talk about your visions. You don't talk about this, other side of you. And but look, now I'm helping a whole bunch of people, and it took that sort of getting past my comfort zones. So the inspired actions you might get might be simple thing like, I need to call Aunt whatever, or I need to go down this street instead of that street tonight to see that house that it could be absolutely anything. So that's what we're going to explore with Leslie. So Leslie, first, do you want to share what your question was?
Yes. I feel pulled in so many directions, both personally and in the work that I do. And this is the question: what's one thing I can do each day that will keep me energetically aligned with my soul and all that I am, so I make choices that are for my highest good and the highest good of others in my life? Because I feel just stretched, and I know I haven't said the right things or done the right things for me.
Good. So was there a part of the story that caught your attention?
Yes, right at the beginning, Jane Goodall. Starting my day outside with nature and the elements. And it's about, that's what I need to do. That it's becoming clear, being outside with nature and the elements every day, getting up earlier so that I go outside, even for 10 or 15 minutes, to truly connect with that energy, so that I can do backflips and connect with the burning embers of my desires inside.
Okay, great. And so between the burning embers and the Jane Goodall, were there other symbolisms like the frog? Did that mean anything to you?
That was about being outside, and that when I start my day outside, I'm going to be able to be me and jump all over the place and do what I need to do, just energetically aligned with my vision, my inner vision of what I have for my life, and not get stuck in the day-to-day drama. That's what came up for me.
Great. So now you have at least one inspired action that you can put into your schedule. So listeners, is there something in the story that you also got that can translate into an inspired action? I mean, our lives are full of action. We do, but are you just doing busyness, or are you doing something that's, aiming you towards your highest good? Are you taking inspired action? That's the difference between action and inspired action.
And that's so true. And you brought up a really good point about we're all busy, but, is our busyness moving us towards our goals?
It's like that hamster on the hamster wheel.
Absolutely.
He's busy.
Yeah.
Not going
Not
anywhere.
going anywhere, yeah.
Yeah. And so let's see if there's something else in there. So is there another inspired action that might come out of some of the other symbolism that was in there? How about the jewels shape-shifting to Smarties and Skittles and that kind of thing?
Yes, it was also a good reminder for me. We forget as we age that there's a part of us inside that wants to play and laugh and have fun, and we take life so seriously. We think, oh, I'm too busy, I can't do that. But it's about fueling that inner child, because if we don't, then I've been there. I've been stuck and overwhelmed and unhappy, and it's about playing and laughing and having fun.
Yeah, the Skittles, I wanted to giggle when I saw that. I mean, I never really even ate Skittles, but it was that childhood colorful candy. It's like, oh, they're jewels. Some of you might listen to this and think, oh, I need to eat more sugar. Also test whether who's talking, who's giving you that guidance. Is that your ego, or is that your what you want to hear, or is it really what's in your highest good? So I basically connect from a distance, record everything. It takes me about 4 hours. I create the imagery for it as well. That's full of clues, and then I send you all that via email. And I've got this one client right now. She's in Ontario, and I interviewed her for a blog post in October, so that you can find in my on my website. Go back to October. It's Cynthia's Divine Storytelling Time, and she's had 2 done with about 2 years in between. And what she said is that the first one, she listens to it every couple of days and works with it, and parts of it, and different parts mean different things at different times depending what question she goes in, and it's like listening to a radio play. It's very entertaining. But she said that the second time she had it done, because she worked with it, the first one, for 2 years, all of a sudden she realized how much more attuned her own intuition was. Whereas it took her, I forget now what the exact thing, but it took her like a year and a half to get through the first one, and seeing how all the pieces came together. It's like pieces of puzzle coming together. She says she's going through the second one within like 2 weeks. She'd gone through almost half the reading. She'd moved provinces. She knew what every part sort of meant in terms of having to take care of her children, make sure they're comfortable in their new spot before. Like, it was guiding every decision along the way, and she was doing it at a much faster pace because her intuition was sharper. She'd exercised that muscle so much that it was helping her make those transformational changes in her life at a much more rapid pace. And that's it, is once you start taking baby steps and you realize, wow, that was awesome, I can trust this, because we're all intuitive and we're always asking questions to the universe. But sometimes we're doing it subconsciously, and you don't know what you're asking for, and sometimes you got to watch what you're asking for, but you're not aware of it. If you start doing it consciously like this and asking your questions, looking and paying attention to everything around you, not just in a divine storytelling time, but in your everyday life.
And I think the point that our listeners really need to understand is to consciously do this, because subconsciously we're doing things we don't even realize we're doing them. We have our habitual mind that we just get up and do the same things day in, day out, day in and day out. We don't think about it, but when we start to really focus our energy into thinking about, and you said earlier, which I thought was gold, is to focus on what you want, not on what you don't want, which is critical, because I see many people in my practice, when I ask them what they want, they tell me what they don't want. And that's problematic.
Yeah, and that's why, like, some people also ask me, well, do you need to know all the details of my drama? They don't say it that way, but that's basically it. And it's like, no, the less I know, like, I didn't know Leslie's question, and that's better, because I'm just connecting to your higher self and to all of the listeners too, and to your highest vision of your life. I don't need to know what came before and where you're coming from. So that's the difference between like a one-on-one worker who's like doing the back and forth question and answer and coaching. And I do a little bit more of that when I do soul energy portraits for people, which is like a 2-week intensive process, and that involves a painting. But in this kind of thing, it's up to you to sort of see how it's aiming you, not to wallow in the past, but to move forward from where you are, knowing that all your challenges and everything you've experienced in the past brought you to this point. Absolutely. So it's a total gift, even if it's like, it didn't feel like a gift. But, sometimes it takes 10 years later to realize, wow, either that course I took is influencing this and I had no idea, or that challenge I had has made me a stronger person, and I wouldn't have been able to do this kind of work if it wasn't for that.
So, and I want you to give our listeners with a takeaways, but to me, it's about trusting yourself.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Trusting both sides of your brain,
Absolutely.
but having your right intuitive brain as your leader. Trusting your intuition.
So besides that, give our listeners a takeaway.
Well, for me, I'd say there's so many ways to access your intuition, and guidance is always available to you, and it comes through many channels, but like a muscle, you need to develop it, and if intuitive hearing aids help you do that, then use those. There's so much more to life than this, and learning to use your intuition is accepting your soul's invitation to grow.
What a great! That's inspiring to people to do something to make their life better, isn't it? Dominique, thank you very much. It's
You're
been great.
welcome.
Thank you, Leslie, and for our listeners, Leslie will be on the show a little later on to talk about her journey as well. Talk to you next week.